This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
There's music. We're almost there. It's Sports 225, and Ross Dellenger, who covers LSU for The Advocate, joins me. And we haven't seen Ross since October, not at least, in this environment. I think I've seen Ross, but that's another story. So how are you since October?
Good. How you been?
Good. So when I did last see you was right around the time when it was LSU football madness, and there was a long way to go still in that football season.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that in October, how crazy that season had been, and it hadn't even finished, and how crazy it had been. And I know I've talked in the past with you about how crazy 2015 was. In 2016, easily surpassed anything that anything that happened in 2015. It was just it was a wild year, man. That I'll probably never forget a couple of those days. Probably the longest of my life, especially this Sunday after the Auburn game. I mean, just really long, draining season.
Well, I'll tell you, from personal experience, as a newspaper reporter and a beat writer, anytime there's a coaching change, it's hard work because there's so many things that go into it. But in your case, there were so many elements, and I think people might be interested to know what it's like to be a beat writer under those circumstances, especially when LSU opened the season with Wisconsin, and you even had an inkling then, oh, this is going south. It's not good.
Yep. Yeah. I think they thought about pulling the plug after that game, and that was kind of just, I had kind of gotten wind of that and realized, oh man, like this is potentially going to happen here soon, and so you just start gear yourself up for it, but it's hard to kind of prepare yourself for that. And in this age, in 2016, with all the, Twitter and the message boards and the internet, just what it's become, this monster, every little thing that gets out, becomes this big internet story, and it might not even be true. So that was the toughest thing.
So everything is a potential story.
Yeah.
So you get trapped now, and I know what he's saying. I mean, you're probably at your computer with X number of things up on screen and following them all the time, all day. Because in addition to making phone calls and trying to do your everyday work. Is that fair?
Yeah, you have to kind of you don't have to do it, but I mean, if you want to be a beat writer and you want to be up on everything and on top of everything, you kind of have to be on the internet all day. You have to be on Twitter and on all day. You have to be getting alerts about what's posted here and there because, there could be something that turns into a real story. But yeah, it's completely changed. I mean, even when I covered Auburn 10 years ago, I did a couple of coaching searches there, just like assistant football coaching searches, and just totally different now because of the internet. It's just become so crazy,
Personally, the last LSU football coach search that I was involved in as a member of the newspaper was when LSU hired Jerry DiNardo. So that's a pretty long time ago. I mean, that's pre-Ogeron, pre-Miles, pre-Saban. But what was good was that you just strictly had phone calls going to the right people, either on the record or off.
Right.
Right. And if occasionally you'd hear a rumor, or somebody give you a call or this or that. But God, what a different world.
Yeah. I always tell a bunch of people I wish I was a newspaper reporter in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Man, my typewriter and no Twitter and no phone and just making calls and typing away and reading the paper in the morning. It's just so different now.
You probably never worked in a newsroom that smelled like cigar smoke.
No.
And where guys kept liquor in the drawer.
Nope.
And for after hours or the sound of typewriters.
Nope. No, I have not.
I'll give you one quick old guy story. So one of my early jobs in my career as a sports editor of a chain of weekly papers in Kansas City, and it was 5 of us downstairs. It was the editorial part, and so it was all guys. So it was no holds barred all the time.
Right.
And we worked really hard, but we played really hard. I mean, we did goofy stuff.
Yeah.
But on Mondays at 5 o'clock, we had to have everything in by midnight so that they could get it all together, and then the presses would roll sometimes Tuesday for this weekly paper. And it was never ending. It always went like that. But Monday at 5 o'clock, all the upstairs people left, pulled out a big bottle of Jack Daniels, lit up the cigars, and everybody worked hard and long. And you know, somewhere around midnight, you know, every once in a while you take a little sip, puff, and the clickety clack. You know, it was, you know, that's really old school.
Boy, that is. Yeah, I guess my first job was in '06, so there was no smoking inside and no drinking, and yeah, it was. I've never experienced that, but I would have liked to. I would have liked to. It sounds good.
It made it more palatable at times. So when you look back at the LSU football season, you know, when you had time to like catch your breath, which you really don't, of course, because you go from the season to the bowl and then right into recruiting, you know, and then here's where I'm taking you with that is. The draft was recently where so many LSU players were drafted so high and did so well. Was this a massive underachievement of a football team?
You kind of got to say, yeah. You know, I mean, 8 players drafted, 3 in the first round. I mean, the fact that LSU had, and really when you look at the second and third rounds too, they ended up having 6. So 6 over 3 rounds of the draft, which is what, about 100 picks or so, 110 picks, I think. So the fact that LSU had 6 of the top 110 players in the nation, that's you know 1/4 of a team.
Yeah.
You start doing the numbers, it's like, ooh man, 8-4. You know, yeah. I mean, you can't say it's any more than an underachieving squad. I mean, and you look at some of the games. I mean, you know, they were all close. Sure, all the losses were really close, but man, you gotta win those games. You know, and you look back at, a team like Wisconsin ended up being pretty good, but gosh, I mean, you got to win those games. And even a team like Auburn, those are games you got to win. Florida, I mean, you know, so
Fine line.
That's right. It just inches, you know.
Hold that thought, because I want to ask you more about that when we get back. He's Ross Dellenger. He covers LSU football and LSU baseball for The Advocate, and you would think that, like, you know, it'd be LSU football in the fall and LSU baseball in the spring, but pretty much it's both all year round. He's a busy boy. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. You know, you're not a number here at ITI. You're known by name. The staff and the instructors work diligently for your success, because your success is our success. ITI is family owned and part of this community. Our 10-acre campus has been here for over 40 years. Let us evaluate your credits to determine if they'll transfer here. ITI is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey for a better life.
We're back on Sports 225. First thing, my apologies to our friend Luke Johnson, who is the LSU basketball beat writer for The Advocate. Ross was for a few years where he did both, but now he's just football full-time, which is a full-time job. You know, I know that. I mean, because, you know, I read your stuff and Luke's stuff, and, you know, sorry, Luke.
He'll be all right. But, yeah, it's football's just become such a monster, especially major college football, especially SEC football. It's basically like covering a pro team. You know, you go into the recruiting, and then you go into spring practice. Then before the satellite camp ban, they had the satellite camps, and they had all these camps in the summer and stuff. So the summer will be a little slower now that they remove satellite camps. But it's almost like a pro football team, man. It's just so
but
big.
I always, even in the old days, I always thought that. Rab and I talked about this once a long, long time ago. I always thought the LSU football beat for the newspaper should be a full year beat. And then the one thing that you guys don't do that I would have done is once a week there'd be this giant notes package, a full page where it was nothing but notes. And the model for that is Jerry Tipton covering Kentucky basketball, you know.
Right. Yep.
But and I think people would just gobble that up like Cheerios, because there's just so much stuff. And since you're on the internet all day anyway, you can just be getting nuggets. So, all right, so back to where we left off, and we talked about how many players that LSU got drafted at such a high level this past year. But that's not just a one-year thing. I mean, if you go back over the last 3 or 4 years, and it ties into what we're talking about. Underachieving, I mean, strictly in the eyes of the NFL and the success the guys have later. But the one player that never got drafted at a really high level for LSU was a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And, stop me if you've heard this before.
Yeah.
And now you got a quarterback who's had surgery.
Right.
Yeah. So.
It's kind of a mystery, they're like one position away. Everybody says every year they're one position away at quarterback. It seems like every year that comes up. And the only guy, it's funny, the only guy that got somewhat, I guess in the past, I don't know, 6-8 years or so, the only LSU quarterback that got drafted, I believe, was Zach.
Right.
And he just got released by Pittsburgh, who's no longer in the league at all. It's baffling, and I think that, I'll say this, I think Ed Orgeron understands that is something he has to get fixed. He knows he can't win without a quarterback. And some of the things he said after the spring game were really kind of revealing about his thoughts on the position. He doesn't want to, and I think he kind of came out and said it, he doesn't necessarily want the game manager guy. I mean, he wants a guy who can take over a game. And I don't know if LSU has that right now on its roster, but he wants to get it on there, and I think he's recruiting to get that guy on his roster that can take over a game when you can't run the football well, and even maybe when your defense isn't playing great, quarterback can take over the game. And LSU hadn't had that. I mean, you could say Zach for that last year did it, but outside of that 1 year, for the last 4 years, and before that, probably the last 3 or 4 years. So they've had it 1 year in the last 8, a guy who can really take over a game. Yeah, I mean, so you got to change that.
And all that time with all that other talent at all the other positions. One of the greatest running backs came through, some of the best receivers. I mean, obviously, and just based on what they've done in the NFL. And there were guys who I didn't think were that good at LSU, and maybe it was because of the quarterback. When I see like a Reuben Randall, still in the league and doing well. Forget Odell Beckham and Landry,
right?
Whatever. When Texas won the national championship with a big kid, Vince Young, right? Did LSU maybe get fooled and want to follow that model, and then find out that there just aren't a whole lot of guys like that? Or is it simply that there just aren't a whole lot of good quarterbacks out there?
That's a good question. I think that would be a great question for Les Miles, because I'd love to hear his response on that, because that is kind of what it seemed like Les was recruiting to. He kind of recruited the dual threat guy, and he recruited the pro style guy. The problem.
Let me stop you there for a second, because when you say the dual threat guy, but he didn't have the quarterbacks run.
Right. No. Right. So why would you be recruiting them then? Right. I think I know I'd heard this about 2-3 years ago. Zach's last year when they played at Alabama, and he got sacked like 8 times, and it was that kind of iconic shot now that Alabama runs a lot, where Zach's like crawling off the field holding his leg, because they had sacked him like a 7th time. And I had heard that, friend of a friend or friend, close to Les, that kind of was just charred into Les's mind, and he said he will never have a quarterback again who's immobile, like Zach was.
Yeah.
So he definitely shifted after that, He definitely shifted into like, I got to have a quarterback who's mobile. Not necessarily I'm going to run him a lot, but who can escape pressure. And he did. Jennings and Brandon Harris were of that mold. And, Danny isn't probably as great of a runner, but he's pretty mobile himself. Honestly, I don't know how much he's going to be after with the back deal. I mean, they say it's a minor back surgery, but any back surgery is kind of cause for a little concern.
Minor back surgery is what other people have.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the other thing too is that we stereotype too. You say, all right, white kid doesn't run much. Black kid quarterback,
right,
going to be able to be a dual threat guy.
Yep.
And I'm not sure. I don't know if Brandon Harris, for one, could have run a lot more. I still say last year they would have been better off having Leonard Fournette just run the Wildcat the whole time, just be behind center, and once in a while just throw a ball some way.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about one of your favorite passions, the spring game. Just kidding.
Yeah, so exciting.
I just gave him heartburn. He's Ross Dellenger. He covers LSU football for The Advocate. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
Magic of television. All right, we're back. I'm hanging out with Ross Dellenger. He covers LSU football for The Advocate, and I don't think he's an owner of a Sports 225 T-shirt.
All right.
Wait, but the back's got the little TV guy.
Yeah, the little TV.
TV guy, you know.
Nice.
So
Probably.
the only thing I ask is that you wear it where people will see it, even if it's mowing your lawn.
Okay.
You know. So LSU had a spring football game. Did you learn anything?
Nope, not really. I didn't think I would either. It's just so hard to gauge. I know they went 1 versus 1, the first string against the first string, but they also didn't have, I don't know, probably 6 starters on either team, 5 or 6 starters. So who knows? You know, I guess a few things jumped out. You know, Grant Delpit, the freshman safety, the fact that he was back there with the starters tells you a lot, and he played pretty well too. He had a few pass breakups and things like that. LSU's secondary in general had a really good day against a receiving corps that needs, you know, is really young. I mean, outside of DJ Shark, really inexperienced, and it kind of showed. So I'm sure LSU fans don't want to hear that, but
yeah, but you know, you take fast forward into August. And no matter who plays quarterback for LSU, there's not going to be Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry to throw to, and that matters. Right.
In you know, DJ Chark is great, and he runs fast, and he catches the ball well, and he's a good kid and all that. But he's just one guy. You don't have that second guy, even like you did last year. When you had 3 guys last year, really. You had 3 guys you could trust that were really fast and athletic, and Dupree and Doral and Chark. And now you have one, and under him, you know, Drake Davis, Stephon Sullivan, those guys are really talented and really big, fast guys, but they just have such a lack of experience. So, yeah, not much was really gleaned, man. It's tough to learn a whole lot from that.
LSU's got 2 new coordinators that everybody says are, you know, one brand new and one sort of new, that are going to make such a huge difference. Do you feel that same thing just because, or is it still give me the best players and then I'll have good coordinators who can make them?
Yeah, well, I mean, you definitely need the best players, right? I mean, I think it's Nick Saban's model. You know, go out and get the best players, and you'll win.
And by the way, did I see that he just got an 8-year extension?
Yeah, through 2025, I think. Got a $4 million signing bonus. So it's
he's going to be like 112 in the last part of his
run. Yeah.
Because Nick's got 65 coming up if he hasn't hit it already.
Yeah, he's going to be. I think they said at the end of his contract he'd be 72 or 73. Mm-hmm. And I think most people expect him just keep on rolling through. But you know, he's a machine, man. He's a machine. But that's just. Yeah, I mean, that's you know, his strategy is go find the best players, and you know, he's going to do that no matter who his staff members are, no matter who his coordinators are, Lane Kiffin or who else, they still win because they got the best players and probably a really good strength and conditioning program in the offseason too. You know, you got to add that in. And of course, a coach like Saban that probably with his organizational skills and how much he works, it all comes together every year to produce a winner. You know,
I was lucky enough to have had him on the show from the get-go and got to know him pretty well. Nick's always been really, really good to me, and I appreciate that. Did you ever get to cover him? Have you ever spent any time really visiting
Not really,
him?
no.
Just in meetings and stuff?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
He's an interesting fellow. He's ridiculously focused.
Yeah.
Even the first time when he was on the show. So, you know, like, as we're talking and you're looking at me, Nick wasn't doing that. Nick, I'd ask him a question, and he'd go right to the camera and tell me. You know, and it was like he was already talking to the players.
To the players,
you know, when he was there. And this was not long after he got the job.
He kind of treats a lot of interviews like that. I've noticed. You know, he'll talk to the camera and preach. You know, his voice will start raising, and his hands will start. He's always. It seems like he's always talking to a team.
Well, and what's interesting is a lot of politicians have picked up exactly the Nick Saban playbook. I mean, he set the tone for the way I believe presidential candidates talk to the media, governors. You know, the way they do it. A lot.
Yeah.
It's trickled down.
He sets a lot of standards. No talking to freshmen for media. You know.
Yeah.
He kind of set that. No talking to assistants for media. He kind of started that too. So he's all about focus and eliminating distractions.
Real quick, so we're running short on time in this segment, but he had the wide receiver from Michigan State, the one who shot himself in the foot.
Yeah,
for the
Plaxico Burress.
Plaxico Burress. He says that while he was the coach at Michigan State, and the stupid stuff that he said was the reason why freshmen don't get to talk to the media.
Well, there you go.
That was his story. All right, we got a little bit of time left when we get back with Ross Dellenger, who covers LSU football for The Advocate. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Down the home stretch of another Sports 225. In fact, we've only got one left coming up next week, and it's a surprise. If I told you any more, well, you know. Thanks to John Williams from JCW for directing the show. If you go to sports225.com, you can get all the listings for when we're on Cox 4 on CST, and we archive all the shows so you can watch them on the Sports 225 YouTube channel. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, call the folks back in Mississippi.
Yeah, I know.
The ones who don't get CST. Ross Dellenger's here. He covers LSU football for The Advocate. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question, but I love this. If you were the czar of all of college football and you could change and make 2 or 3 rules changes or anything in the world, what would you do?
Shorten games.
Thank you. He's invited back.
Yes. I mean, gosh, it's just got. And we actually met with Sankey. I met with him last week in Birmingham, and that's one of the things I think he wants to try to get done too. I mean,
you had a good story with Sankey about the beer.
The beer, yeah. He really suggested that rule was going to change, and the fact that LSU is already starting to work on or whatever a beer garden in the stadium tells me that they're expecting it to change too. I think we're going to find out more here in the coming weeks about that beer.
But I assume beer's not one of the things you would do as the czar. Or maybe it would be, but you wouldn't get to drink it because you're working. So you would shorten the game, and there's really obvious how you could do so much of that. And then anything else?
The NFL's done it.
Of course.
The NFL has done it. And, anything else? Gosh, I don't know. Trying to think here. I mean, paying the players is certainly a hot topic. And when you look at, we just talked about Nick Saban, $4 million, right? A signing bonus of $4 million, a salary of $7 million, a total pay of $11 million, and his star running back is getting a $2,200 stipend, whatever, each month or whatever they get, or each semester. I don't remember how I think it's each month, and that just doesn't seem like enough or fair to me. I mean, I know it's an amateur sport, but God, isn't really amateur anymore if the coaches are making $11 million. I don't know.
Lesson we're making for doing this show. All right, you can follow him at theadvocate.com. You could buy the newspaper, and on Twitter at
Ross Dellenger, just the name.
RossDellenger. I'm Lee Feinswag. Thanks for watching Sports 225. Thanks for coming on, sir.
No problem.
Okay, good night.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras